If you want to make the absolute most out of 3ds Max's rendering capabilities, you'll no doubt want to take a little time and learn about the software's souped-up rendering engine known as Mental Ray. Mental Ray is currently used by many of the biggest names in the 3D animation business as their rendering weapon of choice, due to the breathtaking results it's capable of producing. Those photorealistic effects, though, do come with a bit of a learning curve, making an in-depth discussion of the subject of Mental Ray a tad beyond the scope of a fundamentals title like we're doing here. What we can do, though, is provide an introduction into a few of the ways that you can use Mental Ray to improve the quality of your work. We'll start by using a file named Mental Ray Setup. You can find it in the Working Files folder. The first thing we'll need to do is make the switch as to which rendering solution Max will use when generating its pictures. That change can be done in the Render Setup dialog. You can find it on the right-hand side of the toolbar, but let's instead use the keyboard shortcut to open it up. That command is F10. Up at the top of the dialog, you'll see 5 separate tabs. Staying on the Common tab, let's go down in the controls to the assigned Renderer section. Once opened up, we'll click on the 3-dot icon to the right of the Production setting. In the list, we'll choose the second one down, Mental Ray. This makes the changeover to now using the Mental Ray rendering engine. Staying in the Render Setup dialog, let's click the Render button in the lower right-hand corner. Watching the scene render, it's obvious that Mental Ray works its way through an image a little differently than the default rendering engine in Max, which is referred to as a scanline renderer. Mental Ray processes an image in little small blocks that it calls buckets, moving its way through what needs to be rendered in a fashion that makes the process as efficient as possible. It's a much different approach than the scanline rendering process, which simply makes a sweep across the image from top to bottom. Another major difference in using Mental Ray are the quality sliders that can be adjusted at the bottom of the rendered frame window. These controls make it very easy to tweak everything from the overall quality and speed of the render to specific elements within the render like shadows and reflections and refraction levels. Let's take the image precision slider, the one on the top left side, down to draft and render again. Now, the quality of the render has obviously dropped off a bit, but that's pretty nice. We can speed things up when doing tests when the highest quality results aren't necessary. Then simply crank up the quality when it's time to go out to final output. Let's change the image precision instead to high and render again. A little longer wait, but a much higher quality result. One of the other advantages that Mental Ray offers over Max's default scanline renderer is the level of realism that one can achieve with reflective surfaces. Let's switch over to a file named Mental Ray Reflections so we can show you that. The scene consists of 4 spheres sitting on top of a floor and a couple of walls being used to close things in. With the camera view active, let's go ahead and render and see how things look. Now, we're yet to see any reflections simply because they just haven't been added in yet. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll close the render and open the Materials Editor by typing M. When you switch over to the Mental Ray engine, Max throws a ton of new stuff in the Material Map browser for you to choose from. Below the horizontal row of icons and to the right, let's click on the Standard Material button. In the browser, we can now see a slew of new Mental Ray type materials. You've got specialized skins designed to create anything from concrete to metal to stone or water. In addition to those, by switching over to the Mental Ray engine, you're now offered an absolutely huge list of pre-configured skins that are ready to pull right off the shelf and put into your scene. They come in what is called the Autodesk Material Library. And it's full of literally hundreds of ready-to-go lifelike materials, enabling you to throw a very realistic and believable skin on a surface with a minimal amount of effort. You gotta check them out. Everything from fabrics to fabricated metals. You've got stone, stucco, wood, it's all there. At the map level, the Mental Ray engine again blows open the doors with a wide selection of new entries. From car paint, you can even see the level of metal flake built directly into the material. There's even one called Landscape, where you can control not just the color, but add maps in to customize the look of the skin. Now, the material that's been applied to our scene's floor and walls can be found in the upper left-hand corner of the editor. Let's go ahead and add a ray trace map to its reflection channel. We'll drop down in the map section, then click on the None button to the right of the reflection entry. From the browser, we'll climb a little higher up in the list, choosing the ray trace map. Let's also add a ray trace reflection map to the dark purple skin next to that in the editor. That one's assigned to the spheres in the scene. With our reflective surfaces now in place, let's render again. Mental Ray does take a moment to work its way through the picture, but our resulting level of reflection is just not possible using the default scanline renderer. Now, if we want, we can always adjust the quality of our reflection precision. Let's start the slider for glossy reflection precision down in an off position. With that set, let's go ahead and render. So there's the way things would look without generating a reflection. Let's instead take the reflection precision to a low value of, let's say, 0.5. With the slider in place, we'll again render. So even with a low setting, we're still getting a very realistic result. Let's crank the glossy reflection precision up to a high value of 0.20. With the higher setting, we really are getting a terrific result. Do notice, though, that improvement in quality does come at the price of a longer render time. Now, you can even control how deep the reflections go. Being able to adjust just how many times Mental Ray calculates and renders the surrounding reflections when going about its business. Down at the bottom of the Mental Ray controls on the right-hand side, we've got a category called Trace Bounce Limits. Let's take the maximum number of reflections from 5 down to 1 and render again. So now, Mental Ray is calculating only a single level of reflection. Let's see how that compares to using 2 reflection levels. Let's also try 5. So the higher you go, the deeper the levels of reflection get. That result, though, coming with a longer render time. Let's double the number of maximum reflections to 10 and we'll render again. Okay, using the settings that we've got, let's go ahead and close the render and we'll add a few more skins into the scene. Back in the material editor, let's select the car paint material, naming it Paint. We'll then drag it to the sphere on the back right. Once in place, let's render again. Now, the scene might be just a tad dark. Let's select our OmniLight, taking its multiplier to about 1.5. You'll find the correct setting in the right-hand column in the Intensity Color Attenuation section. Let's highlight the multiplier value, typing in 1.5, then hitting Enter. Okay, with the light now brightened up, let's render again. Let's see about maybe changing one of the spheres to a glass-type material. We'll close the render, then jump back into the material editor. Selecting a clean new sample slot, I'll again click on the Standard button on the right-hand side below the horizontal row of icons. From the Mental Ray materials, I'll choose Autodesk Solid Glass. Let's now name that material Glass, and we'll apply it to the sphere on the back left. When you have that in place, let's go ahead and render again. So take a look at that. With a ready-made off-the-shelf material, we now have the proper amount of not just transparency, but an accurate reflection. Let's try one more. Mental Ray also offers a very versatile material called Arch and Design. Selecting a clean sample slot, let's again click on the Standard Material button. In the list of Mental Ray materials, right at the top, let's choose Arch and Design. Now, the Arch and Design comes with a series of pre-configured templates. Let's click where it says Select a Template, then from the list choose Satin Varnish Wood. Once loaded, we'll rename the material Wood, and we'll apply it to the sphere on the front right. When everything's in place, let's go ahead and render one last time. So that's a few things about using Mental Ray. It truly is an awesome tool in its ability to create stunning photorealistic effects. Its use, though, will come with a bit of trial and error and a lot of practice. Taking into consideration the results that it's capable of yielding, learning what all it can do is time well spent. I'm going to go ahead and save the scene out as Mental Ray Reflections Completed if you'd like to go in for a look.